Good morning, and welcome to the Cyber Smart Morning News Update. With the always evolving world of cyber threats and defense, you need a source you can trust. FBI retired Special Agent Darren Mott guides you through today's intricate cyber landscape and brings you the latest headlines and insights and what it means to you. Let's dive into today's cyber news.
Good morning, friends. It is Friday, December 6, 2024. This is the Cyber Smart Morning News Update. I am your host, retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent Darren Mott. And as always, I thank you for taking the time to download, share, and pass along information you get from this podcast. As always, if you like the podcast, if you're learning something, please hit the subscribe button on all the things to make all the algorithm things do whatever the algorithms do. And if you do so, I'll appreciate it. So today's op-ed, since it's Friday, is going to be more of a PSA, public service announcement, because there was a report today that came out from the the FBI and DHS CISA, or Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. The one organization in the government has the best marketing. I don't know what else they do, but I got to say they have great marketing. But anyway, this has to do with Salt Typhoon, a Chinese state-backed hacking group that has breached telecommunication companies in dozens of countries, including some very popular ones here in the U.S., to include AT&T, T-Mobile, and a bunch of other ones. But I want to read an article here first, and we'll kind of discuss a little bit. This is from Bleeping Computer, Sergey Gatlin. And during a Wednesday press conference, the White House told reporters that Chinese breaches, including a total of 8 telecom firms in the U.S., with only 4 previously known. So this state hacking group from China is much more infiltrated into the telecommunications world than was originally thought. And let's be honest, here's what we are at. Cyber war is here. Whether you like to think about it or not, we are in a state of war with China when it comes to cyber activity. Now, that doesn't mean it's leading to kinetic activity and things like that, but certainly this is the first round in what could be more major stuff going forward. Now, are we saying that the U.S. is not in Chinese telecoms? We're not saying that, because that's probably the case as well, but this obviously is going to be a problem for us and for other countries, of which China is also infiltrating. So anyway, also from the article. Well, these attacks have been underway for likely 1 or 2 years at this time. We don't believe any classified communications have been compromised, said Ann Nuremberger, the Deputy National Security Advisor for Joe Biden. Quote, the Chinese compromised private companies exploiting vulnerabilities in their systems as part of a global Chinese campaign that's affected dozens of countries around the world. So let's talk about that for a second. All right. So these communication companies, AT&T, Verizon, so on, they make pretty good chunk of money. You would think that they would have the ability to ward off cyber attacks. But here's the problem. State-sponsored actors have just as much money to do just as many bad things, and they're much better at the attacking than the defenders are at the defending. And so something I say all the time is, because of this, smaller companies need to look at that and say, okay, I need to find help somewhere to do something, because if the bad guys come for me, especially if they're state-sponsored bad guys, I'm probably not going to stop it. And you kind of have to get into the mode that there's going to be a breach somewhere. So how can you mitigate the problems that occur once the breach happens? And I'll talk about that in a little bit longer. So anyway, on Tuesday, which was 2 days ago, CISA and the FBI officials advised Americans to switch to encrypted messaging apps to minimize Chinese hackers' chances of intercepting their communications. Now, why are they saying that? In other words, when they're talking encrypted messaging apps, they're saying don't use your iMessage on your phone and don't use your whatever Android uses for their basic chat or text messaging app. Use something like Signal, Telegram, or WhatsApp, because those are encrypted communications, meaning the text you send is encrypted from your phone to whoever you're sending it to's phone, providing they're using the same service. And so that's how you protect your messages, because obviously the fear here is if they're using any kind of standard text messaging from Apple or Android, then those are in the clear, they're not encrypted. And so there's the potential that Chinese actors could see what you're typing in your text. Now, if you're not doing business that way, you're not texting your business secrets, if you're just sending recipes, then your risk is probably pretty low. One of the things I said on LinkedIn today was, for some of my more important contacts, I am switching to more encrypted messaging. But I mean, my in-laws are on their own messaging group, right? They're not going to switch to Signal. Not everybody's going to switch to Signal. And if the Chinese want to read my in-laws' message chain if they could just let me know when I should unmute them, that would be great. But at the end of the day, what you have to look at here as an individual is, how concerned am I? What is the risk if China intercepts my text messages? How bad is that going to be for me? Like for me, if I'm messaging with some friends to go play pickleball and China finds out I'm playing pickleball, no, not that concerned. The risk to me, pretty limited. But if I'm doing business and I'm talking about, some proprietary information and I'm sending it through text messaging, that's a bad thing. Shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. And there's probably more to what Salt Typhoon, how much they're infiltrated, what they're doing, than we're going to learn here, right? What you're seeing is the unclassified data that they're allowing to be presented to the public to keep their information safe. The problem is there's a lot of unclassified stuff that probably shows a larger scope of the problem that we're never going to see, and that's not good. So more on this article. This is the paragraph after the encrypted apps start. Quote, our suggestion, what we have told folks internally, is not new here. Encryption is your friend. Whether it's on text messaging or if you have the capacity to use encrypted voice communication, they said. Even if the adversary is able to intercept the data, if it's encrypted, it will make it impossible. However, T-Mobile's chief security officer, who said last week the company's systems were breached from a connected wireline provider network, claims T-Mobile no longer sees any attacker activity within its network. Sure. CISA and the FBI confirmed the attacks in late October following reports that Salt Typhoon had breached the networks of multiple telecompanies, including T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, and Lumen Technologies. The federal agencies later revealed that threat actors compromised the private communications of a limited numbers in quotes, of U.S. government officials, accessed the U.S. government's wiretapping platform, and stole law enforcement requested data and customer call records. That's all bad stuff. They are deeply embedded. Is there an effort underway to get them out? That is my question. What are we doing? And here's my other question, right? And here's the big question I have. Where's the Cyber Safety Review Board? Are they looking at this? Is there going to be a report that talks about how they did it, what they did, what the tactics were, and all that kind of stuff? Who knows? It does say, while timing of the telecom network breaches is unclear, a Wall Street Journal report says that Chinese hackers had access for months or longer. This reportedly allowed them to steal substantial internet traffic from internet service providers serving American businesses and millions of customers. On Tuesday, CISA released guidance to help system administrators and engineers managing communication infrastructure to harden their systems against Typhoon attacks. That's like saying, hey, the fox is in the hen house, lock the hen house door. Now, it's probably really not like that, but that's kind of how I'm looking at that. And again, good on CISA. They got great marketing to show that they're doing something. Would have been great if they did something to start with. It's Homeland Security. Where was the security before Salt Typhoon got in? Whatever. I can go on and on about complaining about government and stuff here, and I'm for the government. 20 years in the government, I'm complaining myself. But hey, it is what it is. It does say that released with the FBI and the NSA and international partners, the joint advisory includes tips on hardening network security to shrink the attack surface targeted by Chinese state hackers, including unpatched devices. You really have to release an advisory to fix your unpatched devices, but okay. Vulnerable services exposed to online access and generally less secured environments. So basically, do the basics. How about you do that? That's kind of what they're saying. Do the basics and maybe good things will happen to you. So again, is this the last time we'll hear about a state-sponsored hacking group hitting one of our critical national infrastructures like telecommunications or like energy or like healthcare? Sadly, it is not. What I do not, while we're hitting here, I got a couple minutes. Let's go to this joint advisory. Enhanced visibility and hardening guidance for communications infrastructure. This is from CISA, America's Cyber Defense Agency. Well, did a bang up job here. Good defense there. So there's monitoring network engineers. Give some stuff here, see if anything's good. Monitor user and service account logins for anomalies. Okay. Here's the problem. Like some of these, I'm looking at some of these recommendations. Let's look at this one. Implement a strong network flow monitoring solution. This solution should allow for network flow data exporters and the associated collectors to be strategically centered around key ingress and egress locations that provide visibility to inter-customer traffic. Herein lies my question. Who's monitoring that? Okay, for big companies, sure, they can do that. They have security operations centers. All works. What are we doing for the small guys, for the medium guys that are going to get wrecked by this when it happens? They don't have a SOC. We have to find ways to help them with that. Implement secure centralized logging with the ability to analyze and correlate large amounts of data from different sources. Sure, sounds good. Who's reading it? Another question. Harden net system devices. Hardening device and network infrastructure is a defense in-depth strategy. Well, no kidding. You really had to say that, but okay. Let's see. There's a bunch of stuff here. I'm trying to see if anything kind of sticks out like a no kidding. Ensure that traffic is end-to-end encrypted to the maximum extent possible. Well, basic cybersecurity says all data in transit should be encrypted. Greatest maximum extent possible. You should do it all the time if you're doing it right? If it's, okay, whatever. Disable all unnecessary discovery protocols. Sure, that makes sense. Disable internet protocol source routing. Okay. What else we got here? A bunch of stuff here. I will say there's a lot of stuff on this advisory if you want to kind of see what to do, but the problem is for many companies, who's doing it all? There's a lot of stuff here to do. Who's doing it? Who's paying for it? That's the question. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to release this. Certainly not saying that. What I'm saying is, one thing I do not see here is here's what to look for. Don't see that on this. This is not here. I don't see TTPs. That would be helpful, but none of that in this advisory, but maybe it's in a different advisory I'm not looking at. So I'm not trying to be bitter. I'm not trying to be angry. I'm just trying to say we are basically talking the same stuff over and over again, yet we never come up with what is the solution? Someone provide a solution. So Darren, do you have a solution? I do have a solution. Talk about exactly what happened to get in, analyze that, and then provide the capabilities or the information to block that. And needs to be better information. That's like I said, there needs to be better information sharing. I know there's groups that exist that try to do that, but I was talking to a guy today, and we were talking about the healthcare sector, and we were talking about the lack of sharing of information. I said, well, isn't there a healthcare ISAC, which stands for Information Sharing Analysis Center? Information and sharing is right in the name, or maybe it's intelligent sharing. I don't know, whatever. It's one of those things. It's either intelligent sharing or information sharing. And he said, they're not sharing anything. So what's the point? Why do you have the name? So, you can say to do all these things, but who's doing it? Is someone doing it? I want to know, if anybody listening here, are you going to take this joint advisory and start doing these 100 bullets that say you need to do? I don't think so. Now, again, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Show me where I'm thinking about this incorrectly, because I want to know. I want to learn myself. But with that, I'm going to let you go for the rest of the week. That's enough of my grousing for this day. So I hope that you continued on to the end of this made it to the end of this podcast. I'll be honest with you, it's late on a Thursday night and I'm a little tired. I'm a little loopy. So this is probably not the most robust, thought processed out podcast I've ever done, but I do think it's an interesting topic because this is nothing new. We've been talking about Chinese hackers for years, and we're still having these problems. And now it's becoming a larger problem as they get into these critical national infrastructure areas. With that, enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you are in a part of the country that's very cold, I hope you stay warm. And we will be back again on Monday, because guess what? Cyber problem's not going to solve itself. But as you go through your weekend, know that knowledge is protection. If you can understand the threats targeted you, you can assess your risk and proceed wisely. Thanks again for listening. We will see you on Monday.
Cyber Smart Morning News is written and produced by Cyber Guy Productions. Feel free to email thoughts, comments, or suggestions to Darren at thecyberguy.com or follow Darren on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/DarrettMott. Thanks for listening.